Morning and welcome to another one of Drew's book reviews. So today's book is going to be on Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. So this is the second book in the Red Rising trilogy. And you can see the review for that one further back on my blog, andrewsbookreviews.wordpress.com. That one is just a written one rather than a video review. But in any case, let's get into Golden Sun here. So for those of you who have not yet read the Red Rising trilogy, or any of it, just tell you a little bit about it. This is a series of books, it's a science fiction series based approximately, give or take, 1,000 years into the future of humanity, where humanity has now colonized the solar system. There are settlements and cities on Mars, on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, on the moon, even Mercury and Venus, all throughout the solar system. And at this point in society, the society has been divided into a caste system, which is labeled based off of your color. So it's a color-coded caste system. You've got the golds that are at the very top of this society. They are the rulers of the society. And you have the reds down below. You've got the grays that are like the law enforcement of society, and the pinks, which are basically slaves to all. They're basically sexual slaves, and their whole purpose in existence is to please those of all the colors above them, really. Which is an interesting way to organize society. I mean, there's been caste systems before, but what's unique about this is that the entire society is not only built around this, but also that society and people have been genetically engineered to prevent the ability of reproducing or having children with anyone outside of their own caste. So, for example, a gold and a pink could never have children together, or a yellow and a gray could never have children together, or a red certainly couldn't have children with anyone other than a red. So the actual genetics have been modified to the point where they cannot reproduce outside of their own caste. And the reds are at the absolute bottom of the barrel in this world that Pierce Brown has created. Now, our main character, Daryl, a brief summary of the first book, he had to unfortunately witness his wife's public execution because his wife dared to believe that there was more to life than simply working the mines of Mars, where they're told there is nothing but barrenness on the surface of the planet. They've been told this for 700 years, but his wife knew otherwise, and she went out of her way to show others and try to show others and to tell others that the world and reality is not what they've been taught and told, and she was publicly executed for this. And Daryl had to witness his wife's execution. So in the first book, that's the basic storyline of the first book. And he finds that he's caught up in this growing rebellion where his wife has become the figurehead. So what happened is in that book, he is set up to infiltrate the top hierarchy of society, which is the golds. And that's where we get into the second book, Golden Sun, where he has successfully infiltrated the top hierarchy of society. He is now set to inherit and to be the heir to the power and authority of the gold that rules Mars, Nero Augustus. And yes, his name is actually Nero, the head of Mars, the gold that rules Mars. Interesting choice of character name on that one. I think that is really, really fitting that the ruler of Mars, the very person who has kept his family and his red caste in servitude for 700 years, and his name is Nero. I think that's really awesome. So anyway, he has infiltrated this society. He is now set to inherit that. But he's also secretly, covertly working with the terrorist organization led by a mysterious figure by the name of Ares. And they're out to overthrow society. But he's having his own moral objections to some of the things that he's being asked to participate in. He thinks there's a better, more effective way to accomplish their goals than to just be bombing and killing people, even innocents. So he's taken a very different approach, and what he's done is he's challenged House Bologna. He challenges House Bologna, the biggest rival to House Augustus, and he is out there challenging them. And essentially, what he's done is he has triggered a civil war between the upper faction of society, between the Golds, and this civil war is set to destroy and tear society apart, so that it is no longer the Golds oppressing all the lower classes, but now the Golds are fighting amongst themselves, bringing in increased and large amount of instability to the society, so that that society fractures and can be ripped and torn apart, which in doing so will allow the rest of society to rise up and take back control over their own lives and their own destiny. I love this concept. I love the way this is written in this book series. Pierce Brown, I think, has done a really good job of setting up a really awesome storyline. And for a science fiction novel, definitely would say that overall it's a really good science fiction novel. It's got the classic elements of the typical underclass story rising up in rebellion and infiltrating the upper class. I mean, we've seen this kind of storyline in so many different books, told so many different ways. The whole concept behind the story itself is not new, but the way Pierce Brown does it, I really like the way the story is played out, the way we get into the mindset of the characters about their own struggles and trials and dealing with the things that they have to deal with. That being said, I mean, there are a few things within the book that, certainly aren't perfect. Science fiction, of course, has to be believable. In my opinion, I think it needs to be believable in how the storyline is portrayed. But also, the science fiction, the science or technology behind it, or the reality of the world created, also has to be believable. And there's just really kind of one aspect that kind of bothers me in these books about the believability of it. And that is the issue of gravity. What I mean by that is that we have Daryl, our main character, our hero, who has spent his life growing up on Mars. He is the product of 700 years of family history on Mars. So generation after generation has been born there, raised there, died there. And the issue is that Pierce Brown treats this like the Martian gravity is something that is low, but has absolutely no effect on the development of individual human growth and abilities and strength, which is absolutely absurd because, yes, if you go from Earth to Mars or Earth to the Moon, because you grew up under the Earth gravity, your entire development and physical structure, strengths, muscle strengths, and density is going to be all affected or based upon Earth gravitational force. So when you go to the Moon, that's why you could jump really high and far. So what Pierce Brown said, he said, well, you can jump really high and far on Mars because of the low gravity. But that simply wouldn't be true for someone who is the product of 700 years of life on Mars, 700 years of generations of Mars. It simply wouldn't be true. He would have the abilities no greater than the normal person on Earth has on Earth. It would be based upon the Martian gravity. He would have the kind of strength and musculature that you would get growing under the Martian gravity. So he wouldn't be able to have these great strengths and effectively superhuman abilities under the Martian gravity. If he were to go to Earth, he would be exceptionally weak. And if he were to go on Mars, he would be same kind of strengths as a person who grew up on Earth, was born and raised on Earth. And so that's kind of the drawback there. It doesn't really make that aspect believable. But other than that, I would say it's really good, and I really enjoyed it. And I think overall, it is a good series of books. And I hope that you'll pick it up and read as well, because I think it's a great series of books. I mean, there are some other questions about curiosities about, for myself, how certain aspects of a terraform Mars were accomplished in order to make Mars habitable. But I mean, those aren't really drawbacks. They're not problems with the story, but more of a curiosity on how we would envision that working. But overall, I think it's really, really great read, and I hope that you can pick it up and enjoy it. And if you did enjoy it, great. If you have read it, tell me what you think of it in the comments below. And also, don't forget to subscribe below. And my links to the Facebook page, Twitter feed, blog site will all be in the description below. And of course, I will be picking up the third book in the series, Morning Star, which should be the conclusion to the Red Rising trilogy. And don't forget to stay tuned, because I will be doing my review on that shortly. But yeah, I mean, definitely great book. Civil War has started, and it's all thanks to Darrow. And just really great book, and really enjoying it. So check it out. And again, thanks for watching. See you next time.